Last year, almost 18,000 applications were made in the UK for asylum. It's a process Nikki has first-hand experience of.
You have psychological issues. You're worried about your family, you're worried about education, you're worried about your identity, you're worried about so many different things. But sometimes you feel that you're the only one person because nobody else feels the same thing as you do in your local reality.
And it's that experience that led her to set up a support network.
The Voices of Young Refugees is a network for young refugees by young refugees. That's the whole idea of it. It's set up to channel the voice of young refugees in Europe together for us to have a tool to talk to the policymakers, to the governments, to government officials. It's just a platform for young refugees to have something they call their own.
This year marks the 60th anniversary of the United Nations Refugee Convention, the legislation governing some of the world's most vulnerable people. But 6 decades on, and what's life like for the men and women these laws are supposed to protect? London's often the first port of call for people coming to Britain to seek refuge, and it's here that I met a young Sudanese asylum seeker. After a 10-month wait, her situation's still unresolved, and because of that, she asked for her identity to be kept secret. Speaking through a translator, she shared her story.
I do not wear the Islamic hijab, and as a result, I was whipped by the national security. The whole issue of abuse of rights really was the main problem, and because my only occupation is journalism, I didn't have an opportunity to exercise it fully in Sudan. There was no chance for me to make anything out of it in Sudan. There aren't much human rights, especially for women's rights. We are prosecuted, and if you are not, conforming to the norm, such as wearing the hijab and dressing in a certain way, even if you are successful, be you a journalist or anything else, you'll still be prosecuted. Once I arrived to the UK, having heard that there is freedom of expression and freedom of journalists, I applied from the airport for asylum as an asylum seeker, thinking that it was going to be just confidential information between me and the government, which I was going to be applying within. Compared to back home, I am comfortable. I know that no one's going to cause injustice to me. However, having stayed for almost a year, I do not know my status, not knowing whether I'm going to be accepted or not being able to work and not being able to go to school or university, I could go crazy.
But her experience is far from rare. In South London, the Refugee Council are used to dealing with hundreds of stories just like this on a daily basis.
This year is the 60th anniversary of the UN Convention for Refugees, and we're celebrating that because it's 60 years of protecting people who've had to flee persecution and violence so that the atrocities of World War II wouldn't happen again. It's as important today as it has ever been. Until there are no conflicts in the world, the Refugee Convention will be needed.
Reya El-Salahi reporting on Refugee Week for LCC News.